everybody? Blind Motor Gamer along with Denverqueen here. It's now time for another episode of the Blind Side Podcast. What's up, Denverqueen? How's it going?
Going good. I was a little bit frazzled because Safari is being itself.
Yeah, I know how that
I
goes.
apologize.
It's all good, don't worry.
Technicalities, yeah.
Again, we're live here tonight. We are discussing Diablo 2's accessibility and the what needs to be done to improve it. So, Denverqueen, would you like to give your overall thoughts on the beta of Diablo 2 Resurrected and what you saw in its lack of accessibility that you thought would be improved at launch?
Well, from what Blind Metal Gamer over here told me, there was no accessibility whatsoever. And from my angle, it's like you have to have a gold standard for accessibility, and I don't want to bring another video game into this, but we all know The Last of Us Part 2 set the standard for what accessibility should look like, and
yes,
by
it did.
that, I want to, it really did set the gold standard for what accessibility means and should look like. So
I agree.
Here's what I think that Diablo 2 Beta Resurrected should have in its accessibility and should have had pre-launch.
Right. Because it's already out as of today.
Yeah, I know, but we're talking what should have happened, but what needs to be improved now that it's out in the wild.
Right.
Now that we've got it, I think it would really help if, and this is the same for all these low budget, games. This game was kind of a small studio thing.
Yeah, it wasn't low budget. It was like, I think $49.99.
Well, compared to the other A-list games, it's because I was looking at, it was like $70 for the game that I mentioned before, but this one is like $49, which isn't bad, but
no, it's
like
not.
You get what you pay for, and that shouldn't have to happen.
I agree. One thing that I noticed from the launch version, and Super Blind Man, shout out to him. If you're listening, Super Blind Man, shout out to you, man. They promised us screen reader support and text-to-speech on consoles. Didn't happen. I did some digging after our initial conversation regarding this, Denverqueen. And they do have accessibility in the game. You just have to dig for it. And the way that they have it set up, they do have colorblind adjustments, which is good. They do have audio sliders, again, which that's good, because if you need that audio, if you need to hear a certain part of the game and you have to drown certain parts out to get the accessibility you want as far as audio, that's good. But when it comes to large text, for those who need larger text, you can only select it to be on or off. You cannot, they don't have a slider. And I hope and pray that Blizzard is listening to this, either here on YouTube or on Anchor and its platforms when it gets put over there, that they will consider adding that slider and text-to-speech in the future.
Text-to-speech, believe it or not, text-to-speech would have helped me play a game like that because, it's the same thing with, going by the gold standard of accessibility that I have seen prior to this game's release. There would have been no excuse. I mean, God,
I know.
Naughty Dog pretty much swept the awards at.
They owned that. I mean, Blizzard.
They own the awards.
Could have had it here. They could have really done some good stuff with this, and said, "Hey, we're back. We're back with a classic. We're going to remaster it and make it good and accessible. They did make it accessible in a sense. Now they do have some quality of life features like auto gold pickup, which is great. They have some audio features in there. Now, granted, as of this podcast, I have not physically sat down and played it. I've just basically browsed through the options menu, browsed through the accessibility options, just to kind of get an overview, a synopsis. Because in tomorrow, Friday, September 24th, I will be starting part 1 of my Diablo II Resurrected live playthrough here on Twitch. So I'm not just
that should be a fun watch.
No, I'm not just abandoning the game. What I'm hoping to do here is I'm going to kind of demonstrate some of these things that need to be improved as I play the game. You know, that way I can hopefully show these developers what needs to happen as far as accessibility. And I think, you know,
making it more of a
complete package. Because I don't know if you're familiar with this, Denverqueen. Were you into Diablo 2 when it first came out back in 2001?
First of all, I never even heard of Diablo 2 to begin with.
You've never heard of Diablo 2? Wow.
Not in 2000. Well, in 2001, I was not even in the video game sphere either because, okay, my family had an Xbox, not a PlayStation in our home. And it was not, we were not even in the age where we were not in the age of accessibility.
No, back in 01, I remember
that. Admit.
Now, Diablo 2, for those of you who do not know who are listening, who might be potentially listening, was not a console release initially. It was not. It was a PC release.
Same thing with, oh God, my brothers owned a console version of, I don't want to bring Halo into this, but there was also a Halo for PC as well.
Yeah, that was a multi-platform
and a lot of
release.
Games would. Yeah, it was a multi-platform release.
I thought that D2 was going to be.
It drove me nuts because I kept.
I thought D2 was going to be a multi-platform. You know, PC, PS2, Xbox. They could have done it. Blizzard could have very well done it. And they didn't come back into the console market until Diablo 3 on PS3. And for years, I've been wanting this remaster so bad. Because, you see, I got kind of a story to tell. With D2, my late brother got it for PC. And, you know, he let me play it because I wanted to play, you know. I love Diablo. Good game. And, you know, oh my God, Diablo 2, I get to play Diablo 2 finally, you know. So I got to play that way.
Can you tell us?
And
can you tell us the gist of what this game is about? Is it a story-driven game, or
basically,
is it like a first-person
it's an
shooter?
ARPG. It's an action role-playing game. It's top-down, so you do get to see your character. Basically, you've slain Diablo, and he's basically back in hell, chilling, doing his thing. And you have new classes. You have the assassin, the druid, the barbarian, the necromancer, the sorceress, the Amazon, and they're all gonna go and
so it's
basically kick Diablo's ass.
So it's like a little RPG.
Yeah, but it's not turn-based. It's
Diablo's
action.
But
yeah, you get to turn him up.
Action role-playing game. Oh,
yeah, RPG.
Yeah,
and it's
I don't usually.
It's a far cry from D2 because. Or from D3, I mean, because you don't have the roll, you don't have the dodge. You have it's more of an old school type thing. And this, to me, coming out on a console like this is huge. Let me tell you why. If they can remaster D2, they need to remaster the original.
Oh, the original Diablo. Okay.
Think about that for a minute. You could have Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and then Diablo 4 when it comes out. All on consoles. Modern consoles.
And these modern consoles have some degree of text to speech
Yes,
on
and
the outside.
I think what Blizzard needs to
Mhm.
do as far as improvements, and you might agree with me on this, is give us a big patch. They've already gave us the 1.2 patch, which was just, I guess, stability issues or whatever. Give us this big patch. Give us the text to speech on everything. Wouldn't you agree?
Agreed.
Uh,
Completely.
what other accessibility features would you like to see in Diablo 2 Resurrected if they do it post launch? Put it in there post launch.
Well, so it's hard for me to kind of list everything, but depending on like what you're, doing, I think combat assist might be good. Some things for motor disability people.
Oh, yes,
Like,
because.
because like for example, when I was actually messing around with my brother's Xbox controller when we were,
Mhm.
I can't remember what I was doing, but Halo could also use something like this in a future release as well.
Maybe we can discuss Halo and Doom Eternal and whatnot in a future cast.
Right. But what I'm saying is
Right, I
if
get
it's
you.
some like combat assist can go for any game that has some sort of
Yes.
shooter on it, like when you're aiming a gun and shooting somebody.
No, you don't aim guns in this. This is like swords and sorcery.
Oh, this is
Um,
swords?
yeah,
Oh,
swords,
but
magic,
but
resurrecting the
you
dead,
could use
poisoning
a
your
combat
enemies.
assist. Oh, so
Yeah, so
like,
like what I'm thinking is, and you might agree or disagree, we can each give our own philosophies on this. Combat
right.
assistance for this game for D2 could look like this. Uh,
Mhm.
you have to upgrade your character, right?
Mhm.
And you have to put your points in strength, dexterity, vitality, etc.
Mhm.
So for
Yeah.
combat, let's say you have a skill that fires off a lightning bolt, right?
Right.
Let's say, I mean, you just push the one button and it'll fire it off the bolt. Let's
Right.
say you had to push, let's say for PlayStation it was L2 and square. And for
Right.
Xbox it's L2, LT and X. Let's say you do that and you do all this and your bolt misses. They should have maybe an audio cue that tells you, hey, you missed. I think they put that in there.
Yeah, something like that to tell me
Mm,
because, but I've never really fought with a sword physically, but I think this sounds like a fun game that if there was all the right stuff in there, I'd
oh,
probably play
yeah.
it.
And then another thing,
Mhm.
maybe you talked about combat accessibility. I want to talk about something else. I've talked about menu
Mhm.
narration. That needs to be there.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. I have to agree
yes.
on that
Oh, my
because
God. With this game, you've got to have menu
Mhm.
narrator because there's so much stuff in these menus, it's not even funny. It's not even funny
Yeah,
what they do.
there's so much stuff in it, like all these games. Oh no, I
Hey,
do
Denver
miss the
Queen.
game.
Denver
What?
Queen. I'm gonna step out to take a quick break. Why don't you keep talking about what accessibility you want to see in D2, and when I get back, I'll continue with what I was saying. Okay?
Okay, great. I'll talk about this, but what I want to say is I kind of miss the days of game cartridges, but at the same time, accessibility was never really a big thought for Nintendo either. But for this game that Tim is mentioning, D2 could use menu narration because, well, with every game on PlayStation and Xbox, when those two consoles came out initially, it's like everything's based on menus, menus, menus. Oh my God, like where am I? And as a totally blind person, when something is menu based, that's when a screen reader, text to speech, narration of menus could really help. And it's not just in games like D2, but in the outer console stuff itself. Like, for example, I'm a parent of a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old, and I want to be able to control which games each child plays and I want access to what they're playing as well as how long they play on the console itself. Each child, you would have, let's see, perhaps I should say 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old. If I was a mother of four, and same with my partner, we're both blind, so we would have to be able to monitor certain types of things, that, I mean, it comes with the package, but I want to be able to access the parental controls in a console's menu, as well as be able to determine for each child, based on their age, what games they can play. Give them a stack of games they can play. Now, D2 would probably fall under the 17 and older crowd, which, yeah, that would be it. And then you'd have 14 would get access to games rated T. The 12 and 8-year-old would end up getting games rated E. Not sure. But D2 definitely does need to have menu narration in it, text to speech, in game. It just depends on what you're doing in the game. I just never heard of this game before. And I don't usually do action-based RPGs. I don't usually do those. RPGs are kind of ARPGs sound like more fun than RPGs, in my opinion. RPGs are like role-playing games. And an RPG is a lot. It's a lot. You're creating an entire world, okay? And it's actually, there's even a thing that, man, I gotta wait till the big guy gets back. I don't know where he's coming back. He's probably stepping backstage to take care of some stuff. Let's see. But yeah, the accessibility of such games, it's like that with a lot of the low budgeter games, like the $49 and under games. And it's funny, when I read about accessibility in video games, people think, oh God, you're entitled, da da da. And I'm just like, no, that's not the truth at all. Because I think that every single person with a disability wants to do the sort of thing that everyone else is doing. Now, I think with accessibility implementations in games like this, if we can have combat assist, like we were talking about earlier, if this is fought with swords, definitely this should be a consideration, because The Last of Us was a story-driven game, so I'm trying to think based on what I saw in The Last of Us Part 2. Whoops, good night, stay safe. Crap. What should I think? I've never even touched video games. I don't usually touch a lot of video games for the reason why the accessibility, and of course Blind Metal Gamer over there, he's got more vision than I do, so he can kind of bear with me. He's been doing a lot more of this than I have, so I'm glad you're back.
Yes. With Diablo 2, what I was thinking was combat assistance. Here's how it could look. Let's say you have to push the 2 buttons for the skill to work.
Right.
Make it where maybe just 1 button could be pushed or something like that, because again, I have not touched this on console. We won't know anything until I start my playthrough. So,
right.
But yeah, some sort of a combat assistance.
Well,
Right,
yeah,
some sort of
something
an
like
assistance.
this, some kind of thing that tells you that either your bolt missed or where the heck your sword is angled or what have you, because
Yeah, I think
sword
they
training
have
in
that
the physical
in.
sense,
They have that
they
in the
do,
game.
but
I'll have to find it and fool with it.
play with it.
Right.
Dude, I'm gonna have to get on your Twitch
Yeah.
stream and maybe
Mm-hmm.
check that out.
Then
But
let's see. What
mm,
other accessibility features could you think of for D2?
well, I guess menu narration is very big on my list,
Yeah,
and
mine too, because
mhm, mhm,
you're probably going to agree with me on this. It's not only good for someone like
mhm,
me, but for someone like you who has
mhm.
no vision.
I have no vision whatsoever, and that's something that people should know. But
Right. That's why
I'm
I
also very
always
concerned.
stress menu narration on every. That should be a part of
Yeah,
every game's accessibility.
every game should have something, because like it's not like we have the SNES or the NES and the cartridge thing flips
Right.
the game in and boom, you're playing it. It's not like that anymore.
No, no,
Now
no. You have
everything is
to
menu
install
based.
and menu based. It's almost like PC gaming, only for the. And now with the
Hmm.
PS5 and Xbox Series X, it can be done.
Hmm.
They can easily implement menu narration into their games.
And that also includes low budget games.
Yes.
But I have a confession to make. I don't even own a game console. I wish I did, but there are a few reasons why I don't.
Right.
And one of the reasons is
Lack of
not a
accessibility.
lot of the games, lack of accessibility in video games, definitely.
Yeah, like
And
there's only a select.
what
Like,
you're doing is very important. There's only a
mhm.
select few A-list games, and they're like $70.
Yeah, that
And
have
unlike your
accessibility. And I even
unlike yourself, I'm on a
mm,
much more fixed income than you are, so
right. So I get that. I
yeah.
mean, I
Yeah. And
and one thing, and I hope that Blizzard is watching this. They're the
yeah.
developers of Overwatch, Overwatch 2.
Hmm.
You know, if the Blizzard
Yeah.
needs inspiration for accessibility,
Check
look,
out.
The Last of Us 2, Back for Blood, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, and Far Cry 6.
I love The Last of Us Part 2. I just sat there listening to
Mm.
uh what's his name?
Super Blind Man.
Brandon? Super Blind Man, that guy.
Mhm.
Yeah. I watched Super Blind Guy or Super Blind Man play this game through, and I was like, "Oh my God, this guy is playing a video game on his own. Whoa." And but when this is comparative to, I'm sitting in my house all those years ago, and my brother is like, go this way, go that way, and I'm trying to mess around with Halo, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, that brings up the next top point I would like to make.
Yeah.
Denverqueen, tell me if you agree or disagree, and we can each discuss how this next feature could be implemented. Navigational
Mhm.
assistance.
Navigational assistance. That is a definite must, because
Yes.
if you're in a, like, okay, for example,
Now,
if
keep in
you're
mind,
in a,
Denverqueen, keep in mind, this game is
mhm,
not first person. It's not third person. It's top down.
mhm, top down. Okay.
So
I
it's
don't
it's
even
called
understand that part.
isometric. What that means is you
Oh,
see your character from the top.
oh. So like you see
Right.
the character's head.
Head, body, arms, legs, weapon, etc.
Oh man.
Now,
Okay.
I have an idea of how navigational assistance could work, and you can throw in your suggestion too.
Maybe I'll. Oh, okay.
If you want to go first on this one, you can.
Well, I like how The Last of Us 2 had a sound that kind of guided you around. I'm
And
not
the
sure how that
pointer.
worked. I forget how that worked.
And the
The
pointer.
pointer. The pointer. Yeah.
That was
I
a
kind of
gut
would
for me.
rip a page from that playbook.
I've got to get back in. I've got a
Mhm.
confession to make here. I know we're talking about D2, but I've got to get. I'm
Mhm.
going to get back into that game and finish that off because that is just. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness, that game,
So,
the story drove me
mm,
nuts. I
hmm
loved the story behind the game. It's an
so
apocalyptic story for those of you who don't
right,
know,
but that's for
but
another
it's kind
time.
of one of those.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
not.
but I mean,
This
we're
is
talking
D2.
D2 over here.
Right, we're not
But
talking
this is like,
TMOU2. But
yeah,
no,
but
the
we do
point we're
need
making
something
is
to.
D2 could use the TMOU2's navigational system as inspiration. I mean, hell,
Oh.
all these games could use TMOU2's accessibility as inspiration. I mean, come on.
Yes, because
Like the
yeah, because
navigational
that
assistance
game
we're
pretty
talking
much.
about. All
Yeah, and
what they could do in an isometric situation is point you in
right.
the right direction. You know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah,
do
like
like a combo to point you in the where you need to go, or they can make a sound. Have a sound go ding ding, ding or something like when you get closer to
oh
where you need to
yeah,
be.
there's actually and there are audio games like that too. I can't remember which, but
There should
if
be
we could
some form
implement something,
of
some form
implementation
of
to
pointer,
yeah to help
implementation of
people.
navigational
I mean,
assistance to help you
hell, to
go
veer off topic, you know what game
places.
did it way before accessibility was cool?
What?
Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge.
Ooh,
Yes.
okay.
So
Okay.
with D2, if Blizzard is able to do this, I know they got other things going on right now that I won't discuss. But if they're able
Right.
to get that in there, the navigational piece, the menu narration piece, the combat assistance piece, and the text slider, that's what you need right there.
And you do need a font slider, especially for you, because if you rely on large text
Right.
or screen reader for the magnifier piece, you could I don't really care what font you're using, but
Right, but for
you
those
could
who
have like
need it, it would help out a lot.
yeah, it really would, especially for you low vision people, and you've got low vision, so
Right. And one thing
you've got the
that I was thinking of too,
yeah.
subtitles for those who are deaf or hard of hearing. Give
Ooh.
those a black background with white text or whatever color text they choose.
Black and white background or color contrast is what we
Yes,
want to say.
contrast. Yes, and
Like
then
color contrast in the subtitles and they do this all the time in like television and movies and whatnot.
for
But
who's
I
speaking and
like
all
that.
this, that way the player knows who's
Yeah.
speaking. Because when I really get into this game, I haven't, like I said, I've not started it up yet, but if they would do that and then have speaker dialogue for subtitles, sound effect indicators for subtitles, um,
Hmm.
maybe have
Like a
have
well,
what Ubisoft is doing with Far Cry 6. Preset
dude,
disability accessibility. I know, right? I'm like, oh my god.
mhm.
I'm
I'm trying to think of how this would work for, say, a deafblind person too, because
well, yeah, that would be
uh,
kind of
consoles are
different.
gonna have to start. Well, I know, but like I have a
I think of it,
friend.
not only deaf, blind, visually impaired. I think
Well,
of
there's also
cognitive
autistic
disability.
folks as well.
Well,
Cognitive, autistic.
yeah.
Oh God, there's so
Basically,
many
you got to
disabilities
think
we have
about it
to.
across the board because you
Yeah.
can't just think, oh, you got to make it for the blind people or the deaf people or the people with cognitive or the people with motor, the people because it segregates everyone else.
Mhm.
So
Right, but you
to
just do have
really
to have a set of settings for both, and you got to be able
right,
to put, but
right,
see, I have a friend who does not like, for example, she's not really big into the audio thing for like audio descriptive tracks
hmm
because she says that interferes with some of her learning challenges. So
hmm
what she does is I think she uses subtitles and
hmm
captions in Braille, and she has
Now
a Braille
that's cool.
display for that. Yeah, because
Well,
I
the
think consoles need
consoles
to start implementing
they
Braille
can't do Braille. That would
displays.
be hard.
Mm.
That would be hard for them to do that. It would drive up
Yeah.
like the PS5 right now is $500 and $400.
Mhm.
So if they did Braille
Yeah, I
implementation,
know.
it would drive them suckers up real high. So they,
The
but
problem is, though, then that would exclude my friend over there on the East Coast from
right. But
playing video
see,
games.
they and you know what the sad thing is?
What?
They're not required. The ADA don't require games to be accessible. They're doing it to a point,
ADA, sure.
but
Mhm,
but hear me out.
mhm.
They the developers are learning accessibility. Remember, this is new to them,
It is new to them, and it's
and
also
you can't
new
just
to everyone
expect
else.
them to learn it
Well, I get it,
overnight
but
and be a master at it. Because
no,
remember, this might be the building block for Diablo 4, and they might patch in those
that's
features
true.
in at a later time. Because you have to
Yeah,
understand what they
true.
did was that when you fire up the remaster, you want to know what's running underneath of it?
What?
The original game.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
original game is running underneath
Mm,
that code. So I think honestly they could
mm.
include the features that we've talked about.
They could if they were given the resources and the chance and to be able to learn about. Like
Mm,
I have been in the accessibility thing for, well, not video games, but apps,
hmm
and I have indeed written app companies and I've said this is how you need to do this. If
hmm
you have any questions, consult this page.
Right. And I do
And
the same thing
you
with game
know,
developers on my own time. I do. I tell them
right,
go
yeah,
consult so and so for such and such.
yeah, I
And I
know,
even,
and that's great. I'm really glad you do that because I
yeah. I mean, if I did it,
you never know. You never
it
know. I
might lead to
mean,
something.
I could it might lead to something big. I mean, big. And
So okay,
the
back to
other
D
thing is
two.
like
Um,
back to D2.
yeah.
Okay.
What other we've pretty much discussed combat, navigation, menu narration, subtitles,
Hmm.
speaker captions, contrast.
Yeah,
What other accessibility
contrast.
feature would you like to see in D2
Um,
post launch?
Gee, I don't know. But I do know that in some games there are flashing light sequences that could mess up people's
Epilepsy, yes,
brains.
yes.
Epilepsy. We have to talk
They
about that because
should.
sometimes they do
Well,
that in movies.
they do. Some games
Oh,
do have what's called motion blur, and you can turn that on or off. That helps
oh,
with motion sickness. Now, as for flashing lights, Diablo 2 doesn't
oh,
have all that. I remember that from the
well,
original.
that's good.
It doesn't
Oh,
have.
okay, but
Now,
it doesn't have flashing lights.
if we were talking about, let's say,
Mhm. Mhm.
a certain fighting game that people wanted me to buy, which I'm not going to buy, I will not
Oh,
name it.
yeah,
That game
don't.
would definitely need some sort of a way to either neutralize those lights or something, because
Motion blur would be really good for that because like motion
mm,
sickness.
oh yeah,
Some people like I don't know really much, but I do notice though that some movies that I watch have this thing where they say some flashing light sequences could be bad for photosensitive viewers.
right. And I think if the
So,
game was to have that, they should have that
mhm,
in there too, which all of them do now, either in
yeah.
writing or in when you boot it up, which is a good thing. I think that
Yeah, I mean,
with
yeah.
D2, you don't have to worry about that. But
Mhm,
back to the accessibility,
mhm,
I think that
mhm.
what do you think that what we've covered here today in our discussion is
I
sufficient as
think we
far
covered
as
everything. I think we covered everything that needs to be covered. I
I do
just thought
too?
of the flashing light thing because I
Right.
didn't know what the heck the
So,
game was like.
Denverqueen, before we wrap up
Mm.
and get things rolling as far as
Mhm.
exporting and all that, do you have any requests or final thoughts for the developers if they do stumble across this and listen?
I do recommend that you guys consult with blind, low vision, and other types of disabled people. And especially if you're going to put the accessibility implementations in, ask your test group if you want to do, say, a beta testing group with like disabled people. This is the same deal I would ask of, say, apps and other types of things that require accessibility. Just make sure you ask the group to give you plenty of feedback. And, you know, of course, I know how to do feedback because I've done it before. But if you have any questions for anyone who is testing out Diablo 2, just make sure
Well,
you have.
the beta's over. This is full. This is
Oh,
going to be.
full on?
This is post launch. Yeah, it
Right,
came out
but if
today.
right, but this is post launch, but they could put like a beta testing the patches, and all the things we talked about could go into a beta
That's
testing
very
run for
true.
another.
That's very true.
Yeah, because they're gonna have to
Have an
do some
accessibility
testing.
beta. Oh yeah.
Mhm. They're
So
gonna have to have a. Yeah, that'll be it.
I would say my final thought would be this. So Blizzard, if you
Mhm.
guys are listening to this either on here, YouTube, Anchor, any other platform this is going to be on, the only thing I ask of you as a gamer who is visually impaired with a disability, a live streamer, content
Mhm.
creator, all I'm asking you is to make Diablo 2 accessible. It's just to make it the best remaster that it can be. I'm not asking you all to add fancy graphics. I'm not asking for new characters or DLC. All I'm asking for is a free update for all players on all platforms that would add the following features: menu narration, some form of combat assistance, some form of navigational assistance, contrast and subtitle, font increases, a font slider, and the spoken dialogue sequences and all of that. If you all can do that, Blizzard, that would be great because you would get this game up to the level of standards and quality that it's known for. I mean, this game, for those of you who don't know, uh, was very popular in its initial release in 2001. And there are people that still play it today. That's how popular Diablo 2 is. And when I heard Diablo 2 Resurrected was coming out, oh, I was so excited I pre-ordered it, right? And
Mhm.
I get the game in my hands. I get all my stuff linked up and I'm all set up. No text to speech. The large font accessibility is good, but it needs to be made great with that slider. You guys need menu narration in this game because I feel that's a must for a game like this with all these menus. And I feel that navigational assistance is a must because, again, all the questing and all of that, help people get where they need to be. So, in closing, I would like to say that I hope everybody has enjoyed this episode of the Blindside Podcast and the inaugural episode here on twitch.tv/blindmetalgamer. And tune in tomorrow, which is Friday, September 24th, 2021. At around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be starting my playthrough of Diablo 2 Resurrected, and we're going to begin the journey together. So, until then, for Denverqueen, I've been your host, Blind Metal Gamer, saying so long, everyone, and peace out.
Peace out.